everybody, TT here with day number 6 of Energywork for Immunity. So today we're going to introduce some different kind of practice from what I've been doing so far. This practice is particularly working with tension as related to emotional things. So I think I touched on a little bit in the introduction or the first video, but again, in addition to finding ways of relaxing, softening, restoring, keeping the body moving, finding vibration, energy flow, all these qualities we're looking at. Another really important way to keep your immune health up is to work on processing emotion. Right? And there's a lot of different practices, somatically speaking, that work with emotion. If you're interested in more of those, you can go to my Patreon. I have lots of practices already on there that come from that somatic processing of emotions. Today we're going to do something called releasing the armoring bands. So this is a somatic practice that has to do with looking at kind of a vertical line of the body and different bands of places where tension might sit. And what we do is simple tension. We do, not tensing, but kind of contracting and releasing of these bands. And in that process, we take little breaths in between each level, and we just notice if any kind of narratives or emotions come up, if any other parts of the body are like moving with that band, where there's kind of connections and linkages. And you start to get maybe a clearer picture through especially repetitive practice. You might not get this first time, the 5th time, the 10th, or the 100th time. But if you keep up with this kind of practice, you're going to start to notice where certain emotions are taking place in your body. And not only where they might be stored, but the path they might take. So where there's paths of tension that relate to certain memories, emotions, or narratives that we cultivate and carry about ourselves. And in that way, it's a really healthy practice for like checking in with triggers, for interpersonal conflicts, for when tension comes up, when stress is hot and heavy in your life. This can be a great practice from having that mindfulness of where things are happening in your body and how you can relate to and create kind of a rhythm of managing and being with these things. So this practice can be done sitting or standing or lying down. I'm going to do it standing because it's the easiest way for you to see my whole body, but you feel free to sit or lie down if you want to. And again, it'll feel different, whatever position you're in, but we'll just take time to talk about and notice each of these different layers. For our armoring bands practice, first we're just going to illustrate kind of the different layers we're going to look at. So we start from the top, this kind of occipital region. So the forehead, the eye sockets, along the head to the occipital lobes back here. That's our first kind of band. Again, they're called bands going around the body. The next one is here. It's the neck, the upper neck, the jaw, back of your neck, mouth, this area here. The next one we go to is shoulders, the base of the neck, collarbone, your space between your shoulder blades, and you might even feel a little bit in your chest. And the next one we go to is the abdominal region, the back, and this can include kind of your arms and your hands here. So this area here. This is all very connected. Our hands are interfacing a lot with this area of our body and connected in that way. Not to mention in the meridians from Chinese medicine, they lead up and down the arm to this whole region of the body a lot. The next one we look at is the pelvis, right? So the hips, the glutes, the perineum and sphincters underneath, the pelvis itself, and you might feel some connection to the lower abdominal region. Again, part of this practice is noticing where things are really linked up and where there's pathways of tension that carries from one band to the other, and just being aware of that. The next one we look at is the thighs and the knees, this area. And then we move down to the calves, ankles, and then the feet are the last ones. So again, in these bands, you may feel that some of them are like really accessible and familiar to like, hey, I really know how to like tense my shoulders and my shoulder blades and release those. And maybe like, I don't really know how to like tense and release my calves and ankles and release those. And that's okay. This is part of how this practice is informative, educational, and building your somatic awareness of your body. So if there's places where it's like, I have a hard time accessing that, don't worry about it. Just do it to the best of your ability. I always say practice where you are right now, not where you wish you'd be, because you can only get to a place that you'd like to be at through more practice. Whatever it is we're talking about with practice, whether that's somatic practice, music practice, art practice, writing, learning languages, interpersonal communication skills, nonviolent communication, all these kind of things. Only can practice where you are in that moment. So we'll start from the top and we'll move down. And as we go through each one, I'll have you tense and release 2 times, but we're gonna hold the contraction or the tensing, and then release. Take a moment to notice, hold, and release, and take another moment to notice. So we'll start with up here. So this is the forehead, the eyes, the occipital lobes. So whatever it means for you, when you think about tensing, does it mean like squinting and contracting here? Or does it mean bulging your eyes out, pressing your eyes out of your head? You notice what feels more like a contraction. And again, you notice other parts of your face are going into it too. Don't resist and try to control, like, this is the band I need to control and have nothing else move. No. Part of the informative process is being aware of what else moves and what else contracts. So don't resist the responses from the rest of your body. Just notice them, right? So when we do this, like if my cheeks come up and my jaw contracts too, I just notice that and I think about how that's happening and what that feels like. So contract that first band and release. Notice what happens when you release. Do you feel a release somewhere else in your body? Like for me, I feel, I noticed my glutes were contracted because I felt them release when I released my forehead and my eyes. So again, we'll do it again. Contracting that first band and release. Again, feeling what happens. Is there a response somewhere else in your body that tells you something, that communicates something about what kind of tension is being held? Again, always noticing with contraction and release, are there emotions, narratives, or memories coming up? What are they? What do they feel like? And we'll move to the next band. So the jaw, the neck, ears, anything in this region, what does that feel like to tense? Does it feel like gritting your teeth and opening your mouth? Does it feel like closing your mouth, pressing your jaw shut? Does it feel like jutting your chin forward or sinking your chin back? And release. Again, noticing what happens to the rest of your body. The same with it, the contraction is when I contract, notice where else I'm contracting. And release. Of course, as you get more practiced with this, you can start to manage and be aware of other bands, other places that are contracting, and try to kind of separate them more. But I encourage you not to lean into that urge right now. If you have an urge for like a perfection and control in practices you do, this is exactly where we need to work on that sort of urge. Perfection is not real, first of all, so we're not going to attain it no matter what we do. And especially when we're relating to our body, we don't want to put that pressure on ourselves of like, I need to make this so that each band is perfectly isolated. That's not it's not really the point of the practice, and also it's not realistic because our body is one organism, where it's about noticing where things are coming up. So notice and observe without judgment, without control, and without too much desire to change things. So next we're going to move to this region, shoulders, upper chest, upper back, whatever that means to you. Let your arms hang here. What does it mean to tense your shoulders, your chest, or your upper back? Does it mean compressing your chest in, bringing the shoulders up? Does it mean putting the shoulders way back, opening the chest? These are both different kinds of contractions, just in different parts of the body, and For each person, there might be one that's like a familiar contraction. And that's what we want to kind of go into, is what's the familiar contraction? So we can really feel where our conditioning is. And release. Feel that release, feel the effect on the rest of your body, on your state of mind and your emotions. Contract again. And release. Good. And we're going to move to this abdominal band and the arms and hands. Okay. So here, it could mean contracting all your abdominal muscles. It could mean pressing them in. It could mean sticking your belly out. For your hands, it could mean opening really wide or closing. For your arms, right, it could mean kind of pressing them in, this kind of closed posture. It could mean really open posture. Again, what's the familiar contraction? Because that's where our body's conditioned towards. So for me, the familiar contraction is definitely like almost like a crossed arm posture. Contract the abdomen, bring the hands closed, close the arms around, and release. One more time. Contract, abdominal area, lower back, arms, hands, and release. Then we'll move to the pelvis and hips, the glutes, the perineum and sphincter muscles, all of this area. So what does a contraction here feel like that's familiar? Again, like I said at the beginning, if there's an area where there's no familiar contraction, or you feel like I don't know how to access this band kind of in isolation, just do what you can, practice in this moment. Other parts of your body really need to move or contract with it to bring something to it. That's okay, that's where you're at. So again, here, glutes, perineum, sphincters. The contraction could feel like a lifting. It could feel like a pressing down. It could feel like the pelvis comes forward, the pelvis sticks out. It could feel like the really upper part of your thighs maybe is contracting too. And release. This is a particular part of your body where the release might really bring like a nice wave of movement through your body, because this is the seat of the rest of the body up here. So again, contracting and release. That was a particularly good one for me. So let out a sigh, and of course, embrace sounds when you need to in these releases, like because it can feel really good to let go. Sometimes we're holding an emotion somewhere we don't even know, and we do this practice and something gets let go and you're like, wow, I just released a little bit of grief that I didn't even know it was there, Okay, so we'll move to the next band, the thighs and the knees. So obviously our knees are joints. There's not really a lot of muscles to contract or release, but you can just position in a way that feels a familiar place for holding contraction or tension. So the thighs, the knees, whether that's locking them, straightening them up, whether that's bending the knees, contracting the thighs here, and release. Again, contract and release. And of course, just be aware of where the other parts of your body are contracting also, where they're releasing also, what connections are coming up. We'll move to the calves and the ankle area, and then the feet are the last one after that. So again, the calves or the ankle, that might mean contracting by like bringing your heels up a little bit. It might mean like sinking again. It might look like any number of things, of turning your knees inward or outward. So again, find that familiar contraction, go into it, hold it, and release. One more time, contracting and releasing. And then we'll do the feet. So for the feet, I really think about the action of my toes and the bottoms of my feet. Whether that's like gripping the ground, whether that's even like curling your toes under, whether that's spreading out a lot as a contraction. You just feel what feels familiar for your body. So contracting the toes, the feet, and releasing. Contracting. Notice desires and urges and other feelings, sensations, and releasing. So now we move through the whole body from head to toe. And you might have just a little inkling or more awareness of certain places that tension resides and what those places connect to the rest of your body. And maybe like I just did today, you feel something release that you didn't even know was there. And that's really the all-important purpose of this practice. And one of the reasons it's great for boosting our immune system is because it helps us to process and release emotional tension.